cigarette smoke till it's in my head, take it all away. Yeah, I'ma light it up just like a cigarette smoke till it's in my head, take the pain away. Let it burn, let it burn, let it burn. Let it burn, let it So I'ma light it up just like a cigarette smoke till it's in my head, take it all away. Yeah, I'ma light it up just like a cigarette smoke till it's in my head, take the pain away. door is closing. Wanna be a part of something more than this. I've lost control of it. Oh, seeing the stars reminds me of you. Oh, oh, oh. You left me with scars, but I know that one day you'll see it through. You'll see it through. You'll see it through. Yeah. You'll see it through. You'll see it through. We're gonna live forever, forever. The afterlife. We're gonna live forever, forever. The talking to myself and I can't focus. Yeah, I'm broken. The door is closing. Wanna be a part of something more than this. I've lost control of it. Oh, seeing the stars reminds me of you. Oh, oh, oh. You left me with scars, but I know that one day you'll see it through. You'll see it through. You'll see it through. Yeah. You'll see it through. You'll see it through. We're gonna live forever, forever. The afterlife. We're gonna live forever, forever. The Can I be your star tonight? You fill my soul with light the day we met. I don't wanna leave your side, no. Have me by your side when the sun sets. I hope you'll still want me. I hope you'll still need me a million years from now. The seasons are changing, the nights ever fading. It's time we left the ground. Let's leave for an eternity. Sail across the lights beyond the sky. I'll be with you eternally. Night for your love and keeps me high, keeps me high.
Hello.
Hey, Shanti.
Hello. Okay, let me post here. And as always, if anyone wants to join us on stage, feel free to.
100%. All right. Go ahead and get it started, Shanti.
Okay. Okay, awesome. Welcome everyone. We actually just had a good discussion in the past hour about the NFT Games Phase 2. So I'm sure we'll talk about it during the open forum later. But we will get started. A lot of things to discuss, a lot of proposals that are in the review process. And I think this is probably one of the longest member open floors that we have. So we'll get started right away. Okay, Chris.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another week of the governance meeting. Appreciate every single one of you for showing up. Want to actually just remind everybody why we're here. And the reason why we're going through the slog, we're showing up every single week, we're putting in the effort, is because we want to see blockchain better. In general, the current layer ones, we're not happy that it's owned by such a select few. We're not happy that the people that are actually putting in the value into the network, the ones building, don't actually own the network. It's a travesty. And we want to see a blockchain that actually is owned by the people that are putting value in, and that is what our goal is with Voy. This is your chain. This is when I say your chain. As always, the governors here. You are an extension of the community. You are community members, just like the core team is community members. This is our chain. This is not a single person's chain to actually drive anything, and this is going really, really well. One of the things today that we talked as a core team today is about how proud we are of what we have so far, that it is such a strong foundation. It is a group of people, you guys, and also the community members that actually care, that are putting in effort, that we're surprised literally every day about the new thing that somebody has done on chain without us actually being involved with. And that's special. But this is just the start. One of the things is that want to make very clear is that at the end of the day, this is not the end game. We're in the beginning. We are putting in the effort for the next level, and we need to make sure that we shift into second gear. Having a strong foundation is the first step, and then the second step is to bring in more people. Maybe the people that don't care as much as what we do, but the people that do care some, and making sure that we welcome them with open arms. And some of those people will convert into the true believers, the missionaries, if you will, and some of them won't. Some of them will go away. But at the end of the day, we need to make sure that we build a chain of that is done right, but it's actually full of community members, and that's really kind of something that we need to focus on as the next steps. But one of the ways to actually, as we bring in these new users, that we maintain the mission, the feeling of Voy, is making sure that we stay true to our values. Walter, you just showed up here. Do you remember what the values are?
I know the community values of goodwill, assuming positive intent, integrity, making sure you personally are acting in that way, that you work in a way that's best for Voy as a whole. You have you're collaborative, you're willing to work with other people. It is a competitive environment, but we're better together than all fighting each other. And intentionality, you want to do things that are going to be important to Voy, that are to use the word intentional, but you really want to do things that are going to make an impact, be unique, differentiate, and all these together is really going to make a large impact on Voy as an ecosystem, and are important that we stand by these beliefs, because this will lead to Voy being different than other ecosystems where there's a lot of cannibalizing going on, and I very much believe in all four of these.
100%. And sometimes we slip as a community. I see people that most of the time follow the values, and sometimes they might not have that goodwill. They might not have the intentionality. And none of us are perfect. None of us continue to actually do the values all the time. But when we hold the values up high as actually something that is very important to us, and not just lip service, not something that we put on a poster and hang on the corporate wall, something we actually truly believe in. This is how we actually maintain and stay Voy. One of the things one of the true values I really want to highlight again this week, though, is intentionality. At this point, intentionality is extremely important, especially as we go to that second gear. That we are such a small resources. I hear all the time, we want you to do more. We want you to do more. We want you to do more. We want to do more. But we also don't want to be a centralized entity doing everything. And, but we want to do as much as we possibly can. And that is all about being intentional. Because when we have such few resources, it is important that what we do is actually the most impactful thing that we can do. Sadly, that does mean that sometimes some things slip because we are focused on others. But the good news is that by enabling the community, we enable the community to do create entire large movements. This is why we have the governance team. One of the things I've actually recently done is I talked to a couple of community members about building out an entire entire structure about going out and reaching out and building out reward systems and pushing them to do a proposal to build out a completely separate entity that's focused purely on the marketing side of things. I've seen some early ideas, and I'm really excited about the direction that they're going. I think it's really spot on. I urge them to continue that up and hopefully see something pretty soon. But being intentional is extremely important. One person I want to actually really highlight, I don't know if he's here or not. He's actually he is here. One of the governance members. He's an extremely busy governance member. Every time I talk to him, he's doing one of a billion different things, as many of you are out there. But the person I want to actually highlight this week is D13. He's been actually, he's done a lot of things, but one of the things that he's been kind of building behind the scenes and kind of surprised us all this week is the delegated staking, if you will, or liquid staking, or whatever we call it. The DVOY is what he's actually launched. And this is actually a very important thing because not everybody will have the ability to run a node, but sometimes you will still want to take your static void that's not really doing anything to protect the network. And by having a decentralized tool, it's not fully decentralized yet, but this is the great first step. It allows for people to contribute without going all in like a lot of the people have here. And so I really wanted to shout out to D13. You're here. That's because you can actually hear me shout you out. And everybody should really kind of give him a thumbs up, give him a high five for the work that he's done, but also just because he's been intentional. He saw a problem, he saw something, and he did something about it. He did it without even doing a proposal out there. I don't believe was there a proposal? I don't think so. And I'm assuming he probably will do a proposal if it goes well. And the great thing about it is that it's going to be very easy to point, let's say, look how well this went. Give me that void. So I'm assuming that would go through pretty well. So thank you, D13. I think this is actually very important. I would love to see more people do this, and not just in technical side of things. If you see an issue, the core team, our job is as facilitators. We really don't see the value in growing to be a 20, 30, 40 person entity, because then Void becomes reliant on that entity to keep on doing the thing. It is much better if we are a decentralized organization. If a completely separate entity was focused on the marketing, they should be focused on marketing. There's a lot of opportunities for people to be intentional. But that's overall. And just thank you again, everybody that's here. You have been doing great work. The Voy would not be what it is without you. And I hope that you're all ready for the second gear. The second gear is going to be way different. It's not going to be what you thought what first gear was. It's going to be a completely different shift. It's going to be all about making the noise, getting new people in, and it's probably going to be like a big overall shift. But it's something that needs to happen, and it's going to happen pretty quick because we have the hopefully mainnet coming pretty soon, and you got to do it before mainnet. So that's everything. Back to you, Shanti. If anybody has any questions, any thoughts, or anything, and make sure once again you congratulate D13 for the job well done. So thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, so we were supposed to have a DD presentation today, but we actually don't because the proposal was pulled. So we do have one for next week, and if I could get a volunteer for Algo Squirrels DAO bot, is there anyone that has the time? You might need to find
Hey,
someone.
it's TD. I'll take that one. No one else will.
Your name down. Thanks, TD. Awesome. If you check the agenda, we have some proposals in the first evaluation, as well as bounties and community reviews. So please make sure you add your comments and fill out the evaluations, and then I'll hand it over to you, Wilder.
Thank you. And shout out to, I think it was Lobo and TD who had a discussion in that proposal and realized that it should be in the marketing side and made the council more efficient by doing so. So shout out to them as well. I thought that was great to see, and that was really to the betterment of the Void Council and the efficiency that we operate. So I'd love to see more of that, and thanks for being so active in Discord. On that note, I've started to use the Voice of Voy at command. So you probably saw a lot of notifications this week. That was in part my fault because I made a second role, added everybody, then changed the role. So it won't be so spammy, but what it will be is every time there's a proposal that enters community review, I'm going to at anybody with the Voice of Voy. So I'm assuming that's all people in the governor role currently. If you don't have that role, go to rules and roles and click the button for it just to make sure you're included on that. I can do a double check, but I think everybody should have that role already, being governors. And this will make sure that everybody can see the proposal, read it, comment on it, and nothing kind of slips by. That's the other reason why those bounties that are all in community review aren't being voted on, even though they've sat for over a week, because I don't feel like everyone in the committee has had the time to read and review them. So you'll see those app messages in Discord. I hope that makes it a lot simpler, and I'll talk to Scotty about also including all of these bounties in email format for those who are email native versus Discord native. So I'm going to do my best to get through what I have in the agenda so we can have more time for open discussion. And I think this is going to be a great meeting for that. And if we have time at the end, I'll go through and do some presentations on what was passed. The NFT games. So for those who weren't aware, we had a roundtable, lots of participation. A lot of people had feelings about how the NFT games were going. A lot of this was spurred off of Lobo's comments on the NFT games length, and then kind of worked into this and what NFT creators want to see if the NFT games is going to be a 9-week period. From that, the core team came out, they gave some suggestions. There were also threads made where the NFT community has gotten involved and said what they would like to see. I find it quite constructive. I think there's a lot of good ideas that have come out of this. I would encourage you as governors, if you're interested to see what's going on, read it in the NFT Games channel. But importantly, we are not going to be deciding on these changes. These changes are in the hands of the NFT champions. The one place where I think we will be getting involved is in how I wrote the proposal. It required 20 votes to be able to reach a quorum. Currently, we're not getting that level of participation on these votes. So I'm going to propose in a director's meeting that we decrease that threshold to something that is more realistic for us to get enough people voting in that 3-day period. So please step up to the mic if you have an opinion on that. Happy to discuss that now, but also on Friday, we're going to be going over this as well. So that's what I plan to do, and that will be what I hope is the last change that we as the council have to make to this document. As far as rules being pulled out and a lot of the other changes, that's all in the hands of the NFT champions. Shout out to Chris for putting up another 20 mil via to stimulate the games. I think that's going to go a long way for onboarding.
Well, 20 mil stimmy.
Yeah. As well, for the NFT games, we found our judges, Ost, IRL, and Chris. So I think that's quite the talented roster. I think they're going to be able to do a good job in judging these tools, and that judging is still slated for the final week of the games. Okay. The node voting, or what the directors passed on the Friday meeting to keep everyone in the loop. We put in writing, and they're there for you to read, but I don't want to present them to give more time for open discussion. The VOI Critical Action Response Plan for Emergencies. If you don't like the naming conventions, I'm just trying to have fun acronyms, but this essentially outlines what we do in emergency situations like we had with the previous AVM vulnerability, I'll call it. So this just puts in writing exactly what we did, and it's a clear path for us to follow and the core team to follow if something like this happens again, which fingers crossed does not. I've also put into writing we as the directors have put into writing and voted on what joining the council looks like. So I've included this in the council rules and guidelines, but it also very clearly goes over how you join the council and gives us all a week or more to be able to vet the person joining. There's an interview process, and that week goes from meeting to meeting. So effectively, there's going to be 2 meetings to talk about it, which I think is what we wanted to see and is going to make sure the people joining the council are properly vetted. Okay, that's the speed run of what we did. Once again, if we have time at the end, I'll go back and do some presentations of them. But to start us off, I'd like to ask Lobo to take the mic and lead us on the first topic, which is council participation quality and council values.
Okay, let me get my notes up real quick. So, okay, now I got them. Okay, let's start. So this was like a general thing I wanted to talk about. Like, for example, when I was doing the DD for Nomadex, I read through the eval comments, and there were pretty general sometimes, and just like, I don't like this, and that's it. So no suggestion to improve anything, or they criticized some things that weren't even clear, so how the proposer should react to then if asked, for example. So then we had a brief discussion in one of the channels in Discord, where I think I talked with Wage about, like, for example, giving out rewards to community members who wanna put up comments for stuff that's in the community review, for example. So my question was, like, are simple evaluation rewards like we have them now enough? So is that enough incentive to put out like quality comments essentially? And then also, if we have like we had this 3D situation where we should remind everyone to be respectful and don't be unnecessarily rude or direct. I mean, we need devs, so being rude to devs is not something we need. So I thought maybe it could be a good idea to do a survey under proposers to see how they felt about the quality of the comments received by governors. So we can get like a feel for what they think about it. Yes, so this was like the general quality side of things. Anyone want to comment?
I think that all feedback that we provide as governors to be constructive as best we can make it. It's not enough just to say, I don't like this, but we should also be thinking of what we would want to see changed and try to be as constructive as possible. So I think this is very important that we're doing this, and it's for the betterment of the proposal and the clarity for the proposer themselves as well as the person doing the DD. So I think that's vitally important that we're doing that. It can't just be I know I've been guilty of this before based on the quality of proposals, but unless it's what I'll say, like perfect, we know the dev, we know they're capable, everything about it's great. We should be looking for comments to have, and we should be providing quality constructive feedback because the majority of the time there are areas for improvement.
Yeah, I'll add to that. Just like at the end of the day, we're problem solvers. We're not gatekeepers. So if people come in and write a proposal and we know that they're quality, we should do everything in our possible and our ability to help them shape the proposal so that it passes, rather than just tell them, what we don't like. Just like, okay, this is how we want it to be better.
Also, when it comes to the new council incentives, I had a comment about like the what was it? The directors' meetings, essentially. And right now, the proposal essentially says a director comes to the meeting, he gets the amount. But this amount is also for doing work. And again, it's not like you did good work, you did really anything. It's just like you come to this meeting and you get here. I felt like this again is like not really incentivizing like really good behavior in any way. So maybe we should think about this in general, like how we reward governors, directors in a way that incentivizes like good behavior in some way. And then the also a general thing. So we are like the council for the Voi community, or for the Voi blockchain. And so I think, in my opinion, everyone in here should like represent the community. And this means so there should also be somewhat part of the community and interact with the community and be like available if anyone has questions. So I heard like from a community member that DM'd me and was like, okay, he wanted to talk about something, was like, he didn't felt good about DMing someone else. So it was like, okay, then maybe should bring this up, that we are, example, for available when it comes to stuff. And then also we should focus on what's best for the whole community, in my opinion. So we had these new health rewards, which essentially favors one part of the community, like very, very early node runners. And I know there were other reasons for why we did that, but I still think we have to try to at least find a balance. So it's not like, okay, we see this problem, we find a solution, and if we ignore everything else, then it's okay. It should be more like, okay, we have this solution. This solution would affect others in this way. So should we try to find a balance? That would be more my approach, and I hope we could agree on that. So yes, that's essentially what I wanted to talk about.
I'd like to talk about the council incentive document. So I think that's great feedback. I'm going to be going into the document, broadening out the fields, being more detailed in what gets rewarded for each activity, while also recognizing that we need a way to transparently track it. So I'm definitely going to get more detail and outline better so we understand and everybody understands how people are getting rewarded for what tasks. I think the bounties for community input is an excellent idea. I'm going to work that in. Really, I just want that the council incentives and to be a better document than the previous one, not just an extension or a raise. I think there's a lot of opportunity to target areas where we know we need more support, and I'm very open to this. Once again, it's not in the DD phase right now. I know we passed first eval on that. That may have been too early. If so, I should have paused that and pulled it back. But we're still in an area where the document is being refined, it's being changed, and I definitely want to segment out responsibilities and target new areas where we need that support. On that note, I think the open office availability or people taking calls and wanting to talk to community members and taking extra time to address concerns, I think there's an opportunity there to make it in council incentive, but there's also an opportunity to make it more of a bounty or to encourage other knowledgeable community members to get involved. So I don't know if that goes directly into the council incentives document or something else, but I think it's important that we're available for people. And for those watching it, I love an app message. I know some people don't, but like if you want to reach out to somebody and maybe their DMs are closed, I'm of the opinion if you're on the council, you've signed up to get app messaged by people, you've signed up for people to get in your DMs and ask questions. And I encourage that, and I want to make sure that the people on the council understand that they should be available to the community because you are the community's champions.
And how do I word this? It shouldn't be a threat, but I think it kind of is. So I think we should make use of voting people off more if we feel like the quality of comments, for example, isn't great or they don't represent the community. So I really hope everyone kind of looks at what they did in the past and maybe tries to reassess what they continue doing. And then I hope this. I hope we don't have to like kick a lot of people out. I mean, even if we call a vote, doesn't mean that they get kicked out. But I hope this just. I just wanted to remind everyone like what we are here for, and I hope they agree.
Thank you, Lobo.
To carry on with more council related subjects, IRL brought up a great point. Zarmian helped clarify it that the current council process might be automated to a fault where things are just moving through because they've hit a certain amount of time and they may not be ready. So in this upcoming directors meeting, we're going to put together another document that essentially allows us to pause proposals in spots, not let them go through to presentations if they're not ready, and be able to essentially put the brakes on when we need to. We already have a system in place for expediting things, but I also think it makes sense, and I recognize that some things are just moving too quickly and they're not ready yet. They need more time. They need to be better refined, and it's going to be a better use of our council's time. So look for that for the next period, and I'll be working on that this week with anyone else who wants to contribute. We're meeting on Friday, so Friday at 12. So please join us, and we're going to make that document and share it with you next week before we vote on it and pass it the following one. But that's for improvements to council process. IRL can't be with us today, but hope you get well. We kind of touched on improvement to council incentives. I just wanted to bring up this from a maybe whole proposal standpoint. We allotted 126 million via for what we thought was going to be 6 months. And the extension that I've proposed isn't exceeding that. It's just following that same formula, if you will, carried on for another 3 months. So I recognize the bias. I've put together a document that you'll see in the agenda just before open discussion, which is a extremely simple and rudimentary way for people to vote with their void balance on a proposal like this, which is only about council incentives. This is not to replace delegated voting, which is about council member voting power. But please take the time to look that one over. That one's not in effect. That one's not active. I just am asking people to go and read that one. And it's something we're going to be discussing and refining in our next directors meeting as well. All that being said, if people have maybe comments on this when we're talking about council incentives, council responsibilities, please take the mic. Otherwise, we'll go on to a section that I if Benny, if you don't mind, you could lead a little bit, which is around delegated voting. Lobo?
So I saw that the idea was to have like yay and nay addresses, and everyone sends just 0 TX to these addresses. So the thing is, in my opinion, we should learn from what others did. And if we look, for example, at what people are complaining about in Algorand governance, is that they only have a yes and no option. They can only vote yes and no. They can't vote like, I prefer it this way. So they have like, for example, 4 options, and they can choose like, okay, maybe I like this approach more. So I don't think that just copying the stuff that kind of doesn't work really, or people always complain about. So I wondered if just one address and just use the text field. I mean, that's kind of just how general Algorand governance also works. Then that's decoded in a very special way. But I mean, we could have like just a simple 1 to 4 or A to D or something in the text field, and then that would suffice, I think. And so it says that the balance at the end of the voting period block will be used, which sounds to me like it can be gamed, because you can not be participating at all in VoIP in consensus, and then you see a vote coming up that interests you. You spin up a node, put your 100 million VOI, because you have a lot of money, in it, vote, and then pull it again. And I think what others are doing is like they take a snapshot before the voting even starts, a random block height, and then they use this voting power. And I think this would be a better approach to incentivize like people also participating if they want to, for example, do it. Although now that I think of, I mean, it's probably only for very rare occasions, like where we don't use the delegated voting. But in general, I think snapshots would be a better system here.
I agree with that. I will say this document was made to be kind of the simplest approach, that would kind of not require very much dev work. I do think more of a traditional snapshot voting would be more effective here, where you have a balance. They have to maintain that balance at the end block, and there's those two checks for a vote. I'll say to the point of people inflating their VOI balance because they see a vote coming in, they would only have VOI if they had earned VOI, because as we know, the liquidity is very thin on the VOI and VIA side, as well as very thin on the bridge on Algorand. So I think for maybe like a mainnet solution, those are very important things. But I would say for testnet, and because we're trying to get something done by April 1st, which is looking like it isn't going to happen, that may not be effective. I'd also, and I definitely think people being able to have nuanced choices is important, but I see that in our current stage happening in Discord discussions, and they have more of a say, and they are brought into the decision-making process before it goes to that yes or no. But I'd very much like to see if you could outline maybe what like a C and a D would look like outside of just abstaining, and maybe abstaining is a piece of it, and you need to hit a certain quorum to make it work.
So just about the snapshot thing, I mean, it shouldn't be like hard to do the snapshot. I think even with my knowledge, I would be able to do it. It would take days to figure it out. But
Lobo just volunteered. Thank you, Lobo.
No. Then I would have to take 1 week off of work to do it, probably, to learn everything. But yeah, so it's not like hard, and an experienced dev would be able to do it in minutes or seconds, probably. And like the CD approach was, so what essentially we could think about what we were discussing. We were discussing about, for example, if signing off should be maybe like, what was it, 125k or 75k or something. So there could be like A, B, C, D, where like you have like the one we thought would be the best after like considering all comments, and then just varying like parts of it in this case. In this case, it's also a bit harder because we have like 5 or 6 variables, I think. So mix and match is probably a bit hard, but maybe we can try to find a way to find good CNDs in some way. Yes.
I think so. Just I agree with what Wilder said about ease of development is most important for the testnet, just because we want to roll out in mainnet's difference. I would recommend that the proposal go out where with stretch goal of snapshot. Like I said, it should be easy and a developer should do it, but getting something done to actually roll this out is probably more ideal than anything, because it's probably going to be one vote that this is going to be for. So. And the same thing with all of the other things about being able to actually have multiple choices. Like the truth is that this is a lot of work and a lot of talking just for one vote at this point. And a vote that was only going to be valuable for like a few months at max. So I moved to a different topic. Thank you. Anybody second that?
I just have a closing comment, let's call it. The rewards end on April 1st, so if we don't have something passed, I'm going to start a vote for extension, which shouldn't rub anybody the wrong way, but it's going to be at the current rate that we have right now, which is 40 million over 3 months.
I moved just to do that, honestly. Like, do you guys really need a raise that bad? It's going to build a whole nother thing and go through an entire voting process.
I think there's value to incentivizing targeted tasks, and I do think that proposal interaction is at a low, so we may just need to trim a lot of council members if they're not participating, but I personally see the value. But we can move on from this topic, and please join us in the director's meeting if you'd like to get into this more. Delegated voting. Benny, if you would please take the floor.
Yeah, apologies, I got a bit ill right now, so I probably don't sound very good. But what in particular do you want to talk about? Do you want to talk about the bounty, or do you want to just talk about delegated?
If you could just give it like a very high level overview, just to get people excited enough to read it themselves. That's probably what it is. I don't want to go into detail right now.
Yeah, so I will. So there's two different things here. So there's a bounty right now for essentially, in my eyes, what should really be focused on building out a governance system when it comes to voting in people on the council, essentially. So the idea being that there just needs to be a system in place such that those people, or such that people in the community can, number one, vote for candidates into seats, and then secondarily, actually assign political power to the people in these seats. So that's kind of one side of it, is actually obviously building this out, and the model that is used to translate tokens pledged to political power is here nor there when it comes to building this thing. The logic is very simple in any scenario, and actually you could probably have a few different ones to try and play with, but that's something that definitely does need to be done in terms of that bounty. But I am separately working on what the model actually is in terms of translating tokens into political power. So I did a bit of a brief write-up just on the educational side of things, just outlining here are all the different models that are typically used. I haven't put down what my favorite one is, but if you've been following on in the bounty discussion, you probably know which one it is. And I'm going to put out a document just explaining which one I think would be best and why. But if anyone is interested in either the actual application that needs to be built, there's the bounty that Wilder's put together, which may need to have some tweaks, just given the pivot there of what Wilder was originally intending with it. But in the governance subcommittee section, you can read what I put together to date. And honestly, for the most part, just make a copy of the spreadsheet I created and just play around with the models, and you'll get a much better feel for things. just tangibly changing values and changing the number of candidates and the number of tokens that are pledged to people. But it's all based on percentage allocations, not quantity of tokens, because the quantities don't really matter at the end of the
So
day.
I'm going to stop here real quick, Benny. I think
Just
you
finished.
did a great job of explaining that, but I want to just repeat what Benny did in just a couple sentences. The idea is that's the voting, your voting power now directly relates to how much people delegate to you. So this means that if the community doesn't delegate you to you, you have no more power in the governance committee. So this is something that you should care about, or you lose all power. Something to know.
And then there's extra toppings and flavors that can go into that, like, you know, is there a recount every X, you know, months or whatever, just to, like, maybe I didn't like what Wilder voted previously, maybe I want to reallocate to someone else, maybe I want to rage quit and do these kinds of things, but not gone into those details yet. But do take a look. If you have any questions, feel free.
Yeah, I found reading through what Benny wrote. Scotty's also has written some great documents. Definitely need to read and learn about this so you can make an informed decision. It's hard to get across in a short amount of time in a meeting. So please do read it. This is the director's homework from our last meeting. So please make yourself familiar with delegated voting. You can provide quality feedback. That being said, this task. No one has stepped up to the plate to actually develop this with a front end. From what I understand, the best way to have this implemented is in a way that the person who's voting understands how they're voting in relation to other people's votes. And if it's all just done on chain, it doesn't have the transparency that I think is important for a system like this. So I'm happy to report, as of right now, all of the critical tasks for Voy mainnet people have stepped up to the plate for. Ost and Mitch are working on the testnet to mainnet bridge. They haven't been sharing too many details about it, but they're on it. And those who are not aware, Jay is working on the smart contract staking, which is different than what D13 did. But this gets into the transition from this would be something that would be built in testnet, but would be used in mainnet. So that's kind of like the last piece. So I think that's quite an achievement for the testnet council to have got all of the mission critical stuff through the system. I know we still have to agree on token allotments and awarding that to projects, but if Jay's building it, I'm guessing it's in reach. But I think that's great for us that we've been able to get everything mission critical to the line and soon to be across the line. And now is the time that we are responsible for getting token allocations signed off. So Rach has done an excellent job, very thorough, excellent choice, everyone who voted for her. She's created tons of these token release requests. So if you did DD on a project, you're going to get an app message. You're going to be asked to sign off on these. Please read them, review them. You are the one who makes the judgment that the proposal has reached this goal. It's not Rachel's responsibility to do that. It's not the proposer's responsibility to do that. So I'll use Coop as an example because he has one out there and WebDev has asked for his approval. Coop, you look at the milestones, you look at what's live right now. If you have questions, you clarify it with the proposer. You can ask other committee members to help you out, but you're the one who puts your signature on that. You're the one who says this proposal has reached its goals, and yes, give these tokens to that person. So everyone on the council, we've all done due diligence. When those people ask for tokens, you're up to the plate to sign off on those. Okay. We have a true open discussion. Would anyone like to come up and bring a topic, or I'll get into presentations?
Bueller. Go for it, Wilder.
Okay. I'm going to get into our the first one that we passed as directors, which is the Voy Critical Action Response for Emergencies, or Voy Care, as I have structured the name for it to work out that way. So this one goes over what we experienced in the. Actually, I'll share my screen. I think this will be easier for those watching on YouTube. Okay. So what this outlines is what we went through with a couple of guidelines and a lot of clarity for the community. So how it starts is there is a issue with the network. I've expanded the scope a little bit larger to say more than just the consensus mechanism, but also VOI. Like, for example, one of the core team's wallets get compromised. I would put that under another critical area in my mind, and that's why I've opened the scope a little bit past just consensus. But the system here is first, the problem needs to be identified. The core team has a great line of communication with Elgarand. It's most likely going to come to them first. Doesn't mean it's always going to happen that way, but that's my expectation. So either the core team or the council needs to raise a flag, needs to say this is an emergency and we need to act. After that, they're going to have evidence that they've used to make this decision, and there is going to be a place where they can share that information. I know when we did this the first time, all these discussions were happening in public places where it made the core team less willing to divulge the information because of the potential of someone hearing about it and exploiting it. So these meetings will be private if talking specifically about the exploit. But once they raise the flag, we go right into a 48-hour response plan. So the director, the core team doesn't initiate this. I have it here as a designated director. I did that just because it's a smaller group and it's easier to make a decision with the three of us. And we will immediately, one of us will enact this as an emergency. It will then go to a council-wide vote. There's 24 hours to vote. This is also the period when we're going to have that meeting to discuss exactly what's going wrong and why it's critical. The quorum and the majority are identical to what we experience now with the proposals. 51% participation threshold as a minimum, so more than half of us say it needs to happen, and more than half of us participate in the vote to make it happen as well. The vote will end if we do get above the quorum threshold and we have, for example, if we have, you'll see down here in my example scenario, if we have 14 council members and 8 of them vote yes on the response plan, it's going to be considered passed at that point because there's not a way for it to be more no votes. So this is important that those who are voting yes, you just don't see the message and then say, oh, so-and-so said this, I'm going to vote yes. You should be getting informed before you place that vote because these are serious changes and it does result in the stopping or the changing of an incentive structure. So right now, and for this period, we did a stopping of node rewards for those who weren't upgrading to the latest software. We did reach 80%, but it took us a week to get there. I think part of that was we didn't have a system like this in place. People didn't know. But if something like this were to happen again, this is the document we're going to show, we're going to follow. And once again, I don't think it's going to happen, but we should have this outlined, and we do now. And the directors were all in favor of passing this. It is still up to the core team to share this through their channels as well. We only have so many channels available to us as the council, but this is the council's decision to make those initial announcements. So this messaging won't come directly from the core team. This messaging comes from the council because we're the ones who make the decisions with the testnet tokens. Okay. Any questions on this one before I move on to the other?
I have a comment. Oh, go for it.
Can y'all hear me? Yes? Okay. So only one minor point is that in the event of an emergency, a concern that I had after we discussed this, Wilder, is just the pressure that's put on everyone to just agree and pass it without properly thinking through the ramifications. I think 51% is fine. But, I would say it would be good to think about when an emergency proposal like this does come out, that not everyone is just saying, yeah, just agree with it so we can get this through and be done with it. But instead actually saying, okay, this has some real ramifications, right? And disasters or emergencies like this are a very easy way to ram stuff through that we might not otherwise. Just a concern. I'm not saying we need to change anything, but just a concern.
Maybe more of a question. If anything is happening, I mean, it's not like we can do anything, really, can we? So, so I don't want to sound pessimistic, but I mean, example, a wallet becomes compromised. I mean, we can't do anything. We can't fork anything. It's just, oh, it happens. That's bad. And then I don't see like, I mean, the only plan I can think of is like starting a new chain with a snapshot or something. But so, but
Yeah, there's the only time.
Yeah,
there's the only time that like really this matters is requiring the upgrade of the nodes, in a to incentivize the actual node runners to actually upgrade. Like that's really the only thing that this would be used for.
Yeah, just a quick comment. And it touches on Chris's point. We and Lobos as well, as if I understand correctly, we may not really have much of a choice, because a compromised chain would be really, really bad. And in that case, I think even something like 48 hours may be way too long if you need to act fast. Like sometimes you may want to act within half an hour, right? And so I think it would behoove us to say, okay, there's some guidelines. If it falls within that as a security risk, not about whether we disagree or agree about other things, but if it's specifically a security risk to the existing chain, we may not even want to go through this process. We just apply whatever, agree on some rules ahead of time and say, if it's a security risk specifically to the integrity of the existing, or integrity and availability of the existing chain, then we just got to get going ASAP, and there's really no discussion about it.
Yeah, I think probably a better way of going at it is that do the thing, and then the vote is like retroactive of like reversing it or not.
And to understand that, it would also mean that the decision making is on the core team at that point. The council is not the one required, but the council would be the ones to retroactively change
test that. For mainnet, it's a completely different thing. It'd be more of like, okay, this is what's happening. If you guys disagree, you have the ability to actually vote to, veto our actions, or say, yep, good job.
And I want to stress, from my perspective, it's only applicable in the case of security issues that threatens integrity or availability of the chain. Anything else, that should go through normal channels and should really never be an emergency.
Well,
You got to step down for D13 to talk.
Oh,
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I love being up here. Thank you.
Hey, so I do hear what Super Synapse is saying. Responding to like security incidents is really hard and really subjective. You'll usually have somewhat limited information. You won't necessarily have confidence that what's going, like 100% confidence in what's going on. And I get that if the council is to vote, you'll probably have to lean on the opinion of the technical and security minded folks. There's basically no way around it. And there's often not a correct answer. So with a recent AVM issue, there was like the Algorand Technologies is the canonical authority, we had like 100% confidence that the thing to do was to upgrade, and so that was straightforward. But in other cases, it might be a lot less black and white. So yeah, it's complicated. I'm not sure. Some stuff is not necessarily revertible as well. To make a counterpoint to Chris's point just now, because, for example, if the outcome of a discussion or a decision is just to like disclose a warning without having full confidence, then you can't really take that back, right? On the other hand, we can't exactly have red phones and be, available 24/7 just in case something goes down. So it's somewhat complicated and nuanced.
Thank you, D13.
I'll just throw this out there. I think it would be wise of us to do some more research on this and see how other successful blockchains go through this. Bitcoin has a process for upgrading its chain. Ethereum has a process for upgrading its chain. You can go down the list. I'm not saying everyone is perfect, but yes, many times this is slow, but it's slow for a reason. And I think we got to be very, very careful. When an emergency happens, it's ripe for exploitation, even if unintentional.
I think might be a little bit confusion here. We can't force an upgrade. There's nothing here that's happening. There's already process when it comes to actually upgrading. This is actually, it's pretty straightforward. What we are figuring out here is how to convince people to actually upgrade is really the big issue. Because Algorand, who we follow our actually upgrade process around, has the benefit of having 80% of the stake with like a few phone calls. So they can just call people and actually upgrade before anybody else even knows. We don't have that ability. We are actually extremely decentralized. So the main thing here is like, how do we actually get the end users to actually put in the effort to log in their machine and run the commands?
So I definitely agree with that. Doesn't Voice Swarm kind of take away that vote?
100%. Not everybody uses Voice Swarm.
But isn't that an encouraged action to be more and more reliant on Voice Swarm to avoid that voting process, so we can act swiftly?
Love it. If you want to go and convince everybody to switch over to Voice Swarm, we haven't been able to yet.
It's just a point that I wanted to make. I mean, I think it's along the lines of Vitalik calling up 80% of the stakers. I mean, it's if we truly do believe that this is a process that needs to be voted on by each node, then we should build around each node having a vote, not an auto cast vote on their behalf. But if we think that speed and resiliency is more important, which could be, changes in a good or bad direction, then, going with Voice Swarm and building on that, is a good decision.
The issue is that I would say the large majority of people that didn't upgrade was not because they wanted time to figure out if they wanted to upgrade or not. It was that they didn't put the effort in. If everybody switches over to Voice Swarm, yes, this is a non-issue. Voice Swarm is designed to take care of that for people. The early implementations that most people are on don't have those tools.
Right. The counterpoint is that if everyone is on Voice Swarm, whoever controls the Voice Swarm distribution controls the network. So if they control 22% of the stake through Voice Swarm, then they can just push out something to stall it, right? And if they control 78%, they can completely rewrite the history. So I generally don't particularly like auto-updating because it just accepts the updates, both the consensus updates and whatever the Docker update that comes through Voice Swarm is. So yeah.
If you could, perfect. I just want to say for those who can't stay longer, I realize now this is more nuanced than I originally understood. So we're going to make some changes in the next directors meeting.
Yeah, I don't have too much to add to what D13 said. I for voice form, I'm the one that currently controls how those things roll out, and there's strengths and weaknesses to that setup. I think designing a process around having multiple different ways of doing things, I think would be a good thing, so that no process would rely on what could be considered an implementation detail. If that makes sense. Because again, different tooling are doing things different way. You can say, sure enough, if you don't upgrade, well, fork it yourself, right? Like that's fine. That's an option. And simply applies if you whatever tooling you might be using. If you're depending on the Debian package for Algorand, well, you can stay on the old one. You just own it all of a sudden. The same if you stay on an old version of OST or VoiceForm or whatever it might be.
On this topic, is it fair to say that D13's guide is something that would be fully independent because it's up to every node runner to do their own updating in that sense?
Well, yes, but on accident. The thing is, like the guide has a way to actually set up auto update. It just doesn't work. So.
And that can obviously be fixed. But if you then do the auto update, it's just to whatever Algorand is pushed. The same fundamental issue still persists.
Right. Yes, it does auto update to the Algorand binaries. I wasn't aware that it wasn't the auto update wasn't working as it works on my machines, and I couldn't fix it unless I was told that it didn't. But moving, like the Algorand binaries are already considered to be a highly secure source for the software, right? Moving like VoiceWarm includes the Algorand binaries, but also the VoiceWarm distribution.
Well, thank you for the great feedback. I'm once again gonna make some amendments. I think narrow the scope and only have it around network related emergencies. And thank you everybody for your time. I know we're past the hour. I could probably go another 15 minutes on a presentation, but I'll save that for the next one.
I would like to make a recommendation. I don't think these meetings are great for presentations if we don't have to. I'd much rather you just tell everybody to read them beforehand and use these meetings for discussion. So going forward, just make sure that people read it, and it's up to the governors to read and be prepared when they come to these meetings.
Completely agree. This feeds right into the app messages you have seen and are going to continue to see. And I'll also be app messaging people to read the director's meeting agenda, which has these documents linked.
Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate it, you all, for being here. And D13, if you're still here, I can tell you why it doesn't work. Henrik figured it out, or Henrik can tell you, one of the two. But anyway, I'll talk to you guys all later.
Cheers, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.